All right, guys, and a quick explanation about team stuff for team leaders. And this one I will actually do on the desktop. Um, yeah, lovely desktop it is. And I'll go to the website of teamstuff.com and I'll go to the login. And here you can either create a new account if you haven't already done so. I already have an account, so I'm going to log in under my email address and password, which is the same one that I use for the app on my telephone. And then you will open up the website with your teams. And if you are a manager or a coach on any of these teams, which I am, for instance, for the halfway trophy here, then you can manage quite a bit more than the players can. You actually always want to pay attention to the little pencil, which means edit. All over the place, you'll run into the pencil, and it's not always obvious, but that will give you the ability to change things. And already immediately on the information page, there's something interesting here called the open invitation link, which only exists if you've set this team to be open for invitation. And then, if you do that, you can use this link to send it out to people who want to join the team. Alternatively, you can just go to the players, which is the little face icon, and you can add, transfer, or share players with other teams and send them reminders about games that are upcoming so that they set their availability. The players themselves are the only ones that can manage their contact details, which includes the profile photo, the name, and it really helps if we all just use our first and last name. And actually add a good profile photo like Bart did here. Brilliant. And of course, beard. This helps as well. But Shin Shin doesn't surprise me there. The games that you add is probably where you'll be investing most of your time and practice sessions. Actually, most teams at ACC do not really use other features like resources, documents, and all of that. We simply abuse WhatsApp group for that and send each other a lot of pictures through WhatsApp. But for scheduling, it's really important that the players have the discipline to set their availability. For the youth, we also do that for um, practice sessions, so we can do better capacity planning of the coaches. And for the senior players, as far as I know, most of the teams they only do it for match play. But it is really important that you do set your availability for the matches to help the team leaders schedule who they need to chase up if they're a player short, and just make sure that we have all a good quality league. As I mentioned the word league, there is one little thing as a team leader that you really want to get right, and that is the seasons. So we haven't started the halfway trophy season because of Corona, and here you can see the previous seasons. Now we've tried and experimented with, for instance, breaking up seasons and a pre-season or flamingo season. And what we have found is that users simply miss out on games, don't see them because they're broken up on seasons. So what we do now is we only do one season per year. So the first time you schedule a game or a practice, you would enter 2020, and you consistently use that season through for all the events that you plan. It doesn't matter whether it's a T20 league or a friendly. You just use the year that you're in as the season so that people don't miss out on any of the games to avoid confusion. I think the only other relevant thing that I want to show you here is the sharing of players and inviting of players. In your settings, you will have more privileges if you have a pro account. This is something that you can do yourself. It costs $6 per year, and that goes to the Australian people who built this tool. So it's a nice thing for them to keep it running. And one of the things I do is I synchronize this all these events in the different teams to my own calendar, so I only have to check my own calendar where I have to be. And then the last thing with sharing players or transferring players, I've seen this go wrong, is that as soon as you click on share players, actually I should go back. When you say here, it says transfer players, and you click on that, it looks as if we're transferring players, but we're actually sharing players initially. And if I now would click on Berend and send him over to another team, it means he's on both those teams, which can be absolutely the intention and helpful. You do always have to then select the team at the bottom, and as soon as you start typing part of the name, it will look it up for you. The same goes, by the way, for locations of where you want to go. So if you want to move Berend from this team to another team, you have to use this functionality called transfer players. It looks exactly the same, it does exactly the same, except that it adds Berend to the other team and removes him from this one. And of course you can just simply also invite players by sending them an email. If you have their email address, you can invite them to join your team. I'd say that's so much for now. Let's just add, in training sessions, if you add a training session and you make it repetitive, that all works fine. But then if you have to move them, you probably have to delete them one by one or change them one by one. They become all separate sessions. And in games, the only tricky thing that I've noticed is that, so here we go, let's add 2020. Let's have a home game. Let's set the opponents as rood and wit. And let's go to next. And the date is fine. The time would be 10. Arrive ahead of time. We always set the duration. You do want to set the duration to an approximate duration, because otherwise it doesn't show up properly in people's calendars. I'm happy with all of this. And then the place, because it's a home game, it has entered ACC. But I could, this one is actually rood and wit. I made an error. And here it comes up with a history of all these, different ones. If you don't see that, it means you will have to enter the address yourself. Users, as a team leader, the history of addresses is only shared with yourself. But after you've entered an address once, and there's not so many cricket clubs in the Netherlands, then it will keep coming back. So you can find all the addresses on the KNCB website if you want, but it should be a once-off effort per club that you play against. And then you click on next, and then after that you get a double check. You can send a special instruction, maybe something about a remark on Corona protocols on their website, and you can choose to send a notification which means that the people get a pop-up or an email from it. I'm actually not going to save this. I'm going to go back and cancel it. And so much for now. If you have any questions, go and see, me probably, or one of the other team leaders who've been using Teamstuff for a long time.